Hey, my name is Karen, and in this video I will be sharing with you some tips on how to write a progress report, from structure to making it visually attractive with Piktochart. Days or weeks into your project, your supervisor asks for a progress report. Depending on your experience with writing such a document, you may respond with readiness, anxiety, or confusion. Don't stress, we're here to help. In this video, we're going to give you tips on how to write a progress report, complete with templates and checklists. Let's start with the basics. What is a progress report? A progress report is exactly what it sounds like, a document explaining in detail how far you've gone towards the completion of a project. A progress report is typically written for a supervisor, colleague, or client. You might write it on behalf of or work together with your teammates to produce a team progress report. Depending on the scope of the complexity of the project, you might need to give a progress report weekly or monthly, or for every 25% project milestone. So throughout your year, you're very likely to be creating more progress reports than you can count. Perhaps you find yourself spending more time crunching data and plugging numbers into graphs than actually working. Reports don't have to be as time-consuming as they often are. So why is a progress report important? Sometimes it might feel like writing about your progress in detail can be redundant, especially when you've been regularly communicating with your supervisor, teammates, and clients. But this kind of report is actually quite useful for several reasons. First, it gets everyone on the same page. Each person who receives a copy of the report will know what has been accomplished. This prevents confusion about what has been or is yet to be done. Next, it facilitates collaboration. This is especially important when different teams work together. Knowing what the other team is up to helps reduce working in silos and reduces task redundancy. If you'd like to know how you can work together with your team on a report, check out Piktochart. The next thing about progress reports is it improves transparency and accountability by providing a paper trail. When you submit a report, you've placed on record that you've accomplished a task or explained why your results were different than expected. Once the document has been accepted, it becomes part of the project's official documentation. So just in case someone accuses you in the future of failing to accomplish a certain task or not reporting a problem, you can point to the progress report as proof that you did do so. On the flip side, if your project ever gets nominated for an award, you can be sure validators will come seeking documents that explain how everything was accomplished. Next, it improves project evaluation and review. Next time you plan a project, your team can examine documents, including progress reports, of the previous project to find out what was done right, what went wrong, and what can be improved. It also provides insight for future planning. When the supervisor knows what tasks have been accomplished, he or she can focus on monitoring progress towards the next stages of this project. When a report shows that delays have occurred, the supervisor is able to investigate the problems that hindered the progress and take steps to prevent them from happening again in the future. Now, how do you write a progress report? Have you ever found yourself stuck tapping your pen or staring at a blinking cursor, unable to begin writing? That's not an unusual experience when writing progress reports, especially for those whose jobs don't typically involve writing long documents.
One reason people may find it difficult to write these reports is the thought that they're not writers. But that's all in the mind. Reports don't require sophisticated language. In fact, the simpler, the better. Here are some report writing tips. Think of it as a Q&A, because that's what it is in essence. Imagine your managers, colleagues, or clients asking questions and you giving them answers. For example, let's say you're organizing a weekend fair with food stalls and music, and you're in charge of the food concessions. The project plan might require you to have secured letters of intent from at least 10 businesses by the end of the month. Your progress report would then outline the companies and entrepreneurs who have sent their LOIs, including a description of their business and plans for their food stalls. If talks are in progress with other businesses that haven't sent their LOIs, you can mention that too and explain when they're expected to send in their letters. On the other hand, if you haven't met your target, you would have to explain why, but also explain the efforts you have exerted and expected timeline for achieving the desired results. Use simple and straightforward language. This doesn't mean you can't use technical jargon. For example, if you're in the construction business, you don't have to avoid using terms like tender, variation, or risk management, but otherwise speak plainly, use clear and concise language. One misconception in business writing is that complexity impresses. In truth, it only causes confusion. Fact is, being able to speak plainly about your project indicates that you understand your subject matter inside and out. Avoid using the passive voice where possible. Sometimes you can't avoid using the passive voice in formal documents that prohibit the first-person point of view. But when done well, it really helps to make your report more relatable. Going back to the food concession example, a passive sentence would read, "Research on potential food concessionaires was carried out." To make that sentence active, give it an actor, the team in this case, as in, the team researched on food concessionaires. A study published in the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience found that when you used concrete words, you tend to engage both the left and right sides of the brain, while the right side tends to be unstimulated by abstract words. While the jury is still out on how word meanings are represented in the mind, we can agree that the phrase "a merry sound" doesn't stir the imagination as tinkling bells. A hot day doesn't activate visual imagery as a melting popsicle does. When a reader's mind is stimulated by words, it's less likely to drift off. Taking the previous example, researched on possible food concessionaires doesn't evoke a visual image. Built a list of 50 food concessionaires is more concrete, especially when you add details of what food items may be sold. Explain jargon if needed. This depends on who will be reading your report and if you're using very specialized jargon that only members of your team will be familiar with. Spell out acronyms when they first appear in the document. Don't assume that every single person reading the document will understand what each acronym means without you spelling them out. For instance, in construction work, SWMs should be spelled out as Safe Work Method Statement. Pre-starts should be spelled out as Pre-start checks. So in your report, it will look something like this. Safe work methods and then in bracket SWMS. Then all subsequent references would just be SWMS. Stick to facts. Avoid providing an opinion unless it's part of the project. For instance, your task may be to analyze data and provide your interpretation. In that case, you can offer your speculation and point of view, as long as you have evidence to back it up. Use graphics to supplement text. Avoid writing down a long series of numbers in a sentence. Try using tables or charts, especially when dealing with a series of numbers. When using graphs or charts, try out several types to determine which best present your data. You might use a bar graph, pie chart, line graph, or even scatter plot. When doing so, though, spend time distinguishing different datasets from others by using labels and colors. Don't worry if it sounds daunting. There are plenty of software that can help you visualize your data, including the most basic of examples, Microsoft Excel and Numbers for Mac. Let's now get into the structure of a progress report. You may still be wondering about the exact process of how to write a progress report. Armed with all these practical tips, how do you put the report together? First, it depends on the type of report, as well as the intended reader. A progress report may be written daily, weekly, or monthly. It may be written for an individual or a team. The main parts of a progress report are 1. The introduction. This part provides an overview of the contents of the progress report. It is best to write this after you've completed all the other parts of the report. That way you'll be able to provide an accurate summary. Number 2 is the accomplishments. Numbers and details are your friends, especially when writing this part of the progress report. The accomplishments you write should correspond to your goals. Third, we have goals. What were your goals for the period covered by the report? This could be a goal for the day, week, month, or quarter. On the other hand, it could be a team goal too. Fourth, we have roadblocks. Explain what situations, if any, prevent you from achieving your goals or may prevent you from your month's targets. But don't stop there. Be proactive and present an action plan and timeline for resolving the roadblocks. Include details such as funds, materials, and human resources you may need to implement the solution. Now let's talk about a daily progress report. A daily progress report includes your goals for the day as well as your accomplishments the previous day. It also explains challenges encountered in performing tasks and achieving goals. Another section under the daily progress report is lessons learned. These need to be directly related to the day's tasks and challenges, as well as to the previous day's accomplishments. Then we have the weekly progress report. A weekly progress report provides a week-by-week breakdown of what has been accomplished and what tasks remain to be accomplished. Just like a daily progress report, a weekly progress report may include challenges and lessons learned. To get a better idea of this, let's go back to our events example. So for the challenges, many of the potential vendors were attending a week-long industry convention, so they couldn't book meetings, and potential vendors didn't reach their email. Now we can move to lessons. The lessons learned. Consider industry events when planning a timetable for contacting clients. Introductory emails must be short and have readable formatting. Okay, now on to the monthly progress report. A monthly progress report is necessary for projects with longer durations. The report may provide both monthly and quarterly data on the project's progress. Then we have a team progress report. A team progress report provides information on both team and individual milestones and progress status. Now this one is more complicated simply because it involves several people who worked on different tasks. It's not enough to let one person make the report. Of course, you can do the typing, but everyone must provide input and feedback. One way to keep track of different team members' input is to keep track of edits they have made. To do this, simply enable tracking of changes on the Word document or on pages for Mac users. When working on a collaborative tool like Google Docs, click the pencil icon on the top right part of the window and choose Edit Become Suggestions on the drop-down menu. On the other hand, team members can insert progress report comments or questions. Again, you can do this easily on Word document, as well as software that lets you comment on shared documents like Google Doc and Piktochart. One last thing, you finally finished typing up your progress report. Breathe a sigh of relief. But don't just hit send yet. Go over it at least once. It's better to go over it more than once, especially if it's a team progress report. Reread it, edit the content as needed, then ask a teammate to proofread with a fresh pair of eyes. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more, do subscribe to Piktochart's YouTube channel, and we will see you next time.